The possibility of performing such a maneuver was theoretically proven by Central Hydroaerodynamic Institute specialists. By the way, the scientists call this maneuver dynamic going into extremely large supercritical angles of attack. For the first time, similar modes were reached at the Flight Research Institute in Zhukovsky, where the Su-27 was tested for stalling and spin. During one flight performed by test pilot Igor Volk, it was proved that the aircraft doesn't stall when going into supercritical angles within the shortest time. Using all theoretical and practical results, the Sukhoi Design Bureau prepared the new aerobatic maneuver for demonstration. As a result of this maneuver, the aircraft energetically brakes within 4 or 5 seconds, reducing the speed by around 250 kilometers per hour. There is no other possible way to brake an aircraft by such a value. The aircraft demonstrated its great capability. I believe the specialists and spectators will estimate it at its true worth. In the beginning, the perception was like some Russian bears arrived on a big airplane. What are they going to demonstrate to us? However, all this was quickly dissipated. Aviation specialists from many countries I had a chance to talk with undoubtedly stated that we really received the mode no other aircraft is able to perform at present. It may be the future. A special interest was displayed to us. It was the USSR at that time with its classified aircraft, and suddenly Europe was witnessing quite a marvelous achievement in the aircraft building branch. We were pleased with that. During all meetings that took place, we proudly stated that we were not from the country of bears. In general, we can do something. The concept of longitudinal static instability is implemented on the Su-27. To a large extent, this concept is an evidence of the aircraft high maneuverability. Let's have a closer look at this concept. An aircraft, like any physical object, has a center of gravity. Relative to this center point, an aircraft in the air behaves as a peculiar swing. There is another point, the point of aerodynamic center. When the center of gravity is in front of the aerodynamic center, the aircraft is statically stable. Suppose that in flight, such an aircraft experiences external disturbance. It can be a wind blast trying to lift an aircraft nose up. It creates a lift increment at the other side of the swing in the point of aerodynamic center. This lift force tries to push an aircraft to its original position. This is happening without any actions from the pilot. Therefore, stability is the capability of an aircraft to restore its flight mode by itself after it is affected by disturbance. Such ability is very helpful when it comes to trainer aircraft. A stable aircraft itself can correct mistakes of a novice pilot. The Su-27 is statically unstable. It means that its aerodynamic center is in front of the aircraft's center of gravity. In this case, a lift increment doesn't prevent an angle of attack from increasing. Specialists call it loss reduction for the aircraft balance. Practically, it means that an aircraft is more stable when it comes to combat maneuvering modes. On the other hand, to control such unstable aircraft manually is quite challenging. On a statically unstable aircraft, a pilot has to make double movement. He has first to increase an angle of attack and then to balance the aircraft. Not to mention the fact that any disturbance of an airflow will continuously take the aircraft away from the balancing point. It means that he has to catch it all the time, especially at high rams, and the fighter ram is 10,000. That's a disaster. A pilot can easily lose the aircraft and go to a destructive G-load. Strange as it is, Brothers Wright airplane, for example, was statically unstable. They had to balance it manually all the time. Generally speaking, it was impossible to fly this airplane in a standard way. Flying it was a kind of circus art. The subsequent airplanes were designed stable so that the pilot wouldn't have to care about this process. Here we again returned to this idea of instability when automatics, control system, hydraulic drives, hydraulic system give a pilot better control to his unstable aircraft. This system, which helps to control an aircraft, is called fly-by-wire system. At the dawn of aviation, a pilot controlled an aircraft with the manual controls. The pilot had to be physically fit to perform these manipulations. The same control was used in the first jet aircraft. But in the course of time, aircraft were getting heavier, their flying speed was going up. No man could control such an aircraft with his muscles. Therefore, they began to equip the aircraft with hydraulic actuators, thus reducing the physical load for a pilot. In the 70s, they decided to reject mechanical connection. It was replaced by electrical impulse. At the time when they started to create the Su-27 aircraft, this system was big news. In the West, it was called fly-by-wire system. There was a lot of talk about it, but nobody used the system. For the first time in the world, the system was used on the aircraft Sotka. You might have heard about it. It gave us a lot of confidence, great experience, because the main principles were implemented on Sotka aircraft. Therefore, when the Su-27 creation was started, they also made a decision to use fly-by-wire system. On the Su-27, when a pilot deflects the control stick, fly-by-wire system computer forms an electrical signal which, in its turn, controls the hydraulic actuators. Depending on flight conditions, such as altitude or speed, the system reacts differently to the pilot's actions. But a pilot must have a feeling of controlling his high-speed aircraft. For that reason, the system is connected to these special loading mechanisms. Depending on the situation, a pilot applies different force. At extreme modes, the control stick prevents the pilot from making a wrong move. As an example, let's consider a bicycle. It has direct control. The wheel turns as far as the handlebars are deflected. I think if we make a smart bicycle, it would operate according to the principles implemented on a smart aircraft. The handlebars are maximum deflected as sharply as you want, incommensurably to how you are riding, and the wheel must deflect at no more than a possible maximum from a safety point of view, in order to maintain the balance. When external disturbance, such as the above-mentioned wind blast, affects the aircraft, the control system will put the fighter back in its initial position. To teach the system to properly respond to change of situation, lots of flight tests were conducted on the first T-10 aircraft. Unfortunately, one of these flights came to a tragic end. That day, July 7, 1978, the fighter was piloted by hero of the Soviet Union test pilot, Yevgeny Solovyov. On this video, he is second on the left. According to the flight task, Solovyov had to push his aircraft hard to extreme G-load and then put it back to original position. They call it an impulse. He had to quickly pull the control stick and then immediately push it back. In this situation, some defects of the aircraft control system became evident. The aircraft nosed up too fast, and the G-load momentarily went to 6. Solovyov did not expect it to be more than 2. As a reflex, he pushed the control stick back. The aircraft rushed down. Then another reflex action. The G-load was exceeded, and the aircraft was destroyed in the air. Yevgeny Solovyov died. We took the tragedy very hard. We were very much upset about it. The aircraft crash was caused by some new phenomenon. Later on, we found and overcame the phenomenon, but it took some time. To be brief, we have encountered the new problem that cost the life of our best pilot. Not to mention that he was an honored test pilot, hero of the Soviet Union, a pilot of the highest professional skills. Unfortunately, life is such as it is. Death of our pilots Komarov and Solovyov during flight tests is for the aircraft Su-27 and its modifications to fly and become better. It may be a sacrifice without which it is impossible to achieve the aircraft's ultimate recognition and put it into service. We continued the work and developed the aircraft to high airworthiness, put it into service, and take pride in that. We always remember our friends when speaking about this aircraft, as well as the other ones, because their contribution to the initial stage and beginning of tests can scarcely be overestimated. A test pilot's work is not easy. When it's time to meet the unknown, they are always the first to face it.